Hello, Hayes. I'm coming here for advice on whether or not I should attend my little sister's marriage ceremony. For context, my husband and I stepped away from a high control religion in October. We haven't told my family yet because it will complicate an already strained relationship. It's been a complete non issue so far because we live hours away from them. My husband and I are happier and feel more fulfilled away from the church than we ever did in it. The church has also given me a lot of trauma. My youngest sister is planning on getting married in March. I've attended each of my siblings' marriages, and I know that my family is expecting me to be at the ceremony. The ceremony is considered extremely sacred in the church, and now I wouldn't be considered worthy to go, though the paper that gives me the ability to attend doesn't expire until after her set date. If I don't attend, my absence will raise questions, and I'll have to tell my parents that I'm no longer part of the church. They may decide to cut me off after that. I've already considered going no contact with them, but I don't know if I'm ready for it yet. My siblings may have a similar reaction, but I'd like to keep contact with them if possible. I also worry that not attending will make my sister's wedding all about me and how I stepped away from the church. It will cause a lot of family drama, and I want her to have a happy day. But if I do attend, I'm not sure it would be true to my beliefs. On the one hand, I love my sister, but on the other, maybe not going is loving myself. I've always been self-sacrificing for others. I don't want to feel like a fraud all day, but I also don't want to miss a really important moment in my sister's life. I also worry about attending, and then it comes out later that I stepped away from the church before the wedding. Many church members consider that to be a sign of disrespect to God. And if I attend and everyone finds out later, it may cause more strain on my family relationships. Lastly, I don't want to attend alone. My husband and I both decided to step away from the church. I told him he can make whatever decision he would like when it comes to my little sister's ceremony. If he decides not to go, it will make it harder for me to attend. What do you think I should do? Yours, Sister with a Secret. What a hard, devastating, challenging situation to be in. You know, I'm thinking about how you've made a really courageous choice. It sounds like, I'm so happy that you and your husband are feeling good about this decision that you made, and I'm sure it did not come easily. And it can be so disappointing sometimes when we make a hard choice and we do the hard thing and we're so proud of ourselves. And then in the months later, there still are these things that come up that test your commitment to your future, that test your choice. And some of the situations that arise that test your choice will be, small and insignificant. And then there are ones like this, your sister's wedding. And I feel for you. And I have not been in this situation. I'm not a part of this religion. And I can't relate to this exact situation that you are going through and the specifics of what it might be like to be in that church, both the upbringing that you had, but also what it might feel like to be in the church should you choose to go to your sister's wedding. I can't speak to that, but I can maybe help you think through what your options are here. And I don't think this is really a story about going to your sister's wedding or not, right? It's about a person it is about being pulled between the person that we are and that we want to be and the person that we were, between our past, and trying to find the balance between choosing yourself and prioritizing yourself, but also being there for others and not wanting to leave your entire past behind. I really don't think that there is a right or wrong answer here, which I know is disappointing to hear. I know what it feels like to just want somebody to tell you what to do and to kind of give you that permission slip. Say, hey, I actually know what's best, right? How good would that be if somebody that we trust could be like, listen, babe, I know what's best for you. I can see into the future, and this is the choice. This is the choice that you're supposed to make. This is the choice that's going to work out for you. I can't tell you that. What I can tell you is that without a doubt, either choice you make is going to come with some relief and some sadness. I don't think you can escape that. Of course, you're looking for relief, but you'd like to make the choice that avoids hurting yourself, hurting others. And I think that both choices are going to be uncomfortable. Both choices may be upsetting. But at the end of the day, what I want you to remember is that you've already decided to leave the church. Like, you've already done the thing. None of the options that you're proposing are going to put you back in a place in time, are going to bring you back to the version of you before you left. So try to remember that too. Like you already, sometimes I think when things come up that test us, and maybe we feel nervous about going somewhere or doing something because we're like, well, what if I feel the way I felt before? You might feel the way you felt before, but nothing can take away the fact that you are changed and that you've made the choices you've made to build the life you want to build with your husband. Nothing can take that away. Nothing can take away from the strides you've already made. So that's one thing. Okay, so let's talk about, and being an older sister here too. I can relate to the older sister bit, though I think that younger sisters, middle sisters, depending on the role you play in your family, I don't know how much where you fall in the sibling lineup really matters. I think it's even more complicated because you want to be there for your younger sister. Like there's something about the older sister being there for her younger sister, or just showing up for your siblings. It feels different than showing up for a parent. At least it does for me. It's almost like you and your siblings didn't, and I don't know how your siblings feel about being in the church, but there's something about the way we can blame our parents for the childhood they put us in. Our parents make choices that impact our lives. Like your siblings were born into the same situation that you were in. I'm not even just referring to the church. I'm not trying to say that the church is inherently a bad thing, but your siblings were there with you. And I think not all of us actually, so I probably do blame their siblings. But there's a part of you that isn't blaming your siblings in the way that you blame your parents. And I just understand wanting to show up for your sister. So let's think about this. If you don't attend, well, first, maybe, I know one of the things you're scared about of not attending is your parents cutting you off. I wonder, what does it feel like to imagine that, to take that possibility and separate it from your sister's wedding? Your parents might cut you off. Your parents might cut you off no matter what. Now I think you actually know that, and you know that them cutting you off will lead to family drama and lead to tension that you're not sure you want to put your sister through before her wedding. Frankly, I think that's really thoughtful of you. Me saying that, it doesn't mean I think that that's what you should do, but I think it's really thoughtful of you to consider it. I think it's thoughtful of you to consider this is going to blow up, I imagine. I have a hunch this is going to blow up. What's the best way? Or is there a way I can control the timing? But at the same time, I'm hearing myself say that we can't really control. Sometimes there's a better time to do things than not. Absolutely. I firmly believe that. I can stand on 10 toes and say that. And if the outcome is going to be the same no matter what, sometimes we obsess about timing, and it was unnecessary because even if it's not your sister's wedding, it's going to be something else. It's going to be something else. It's going to be some other event that might feel tainted to other people by this decision that you've made, or not by the decision you've made, by the decision your parents make and how they react to you. Right? Let's put the onus on them. Let's put the onus on them if they choose to blow up. And if they choose to go no contact with you or cut you off or whatever it is, to banish you, if they choose to do those things, that's on them. That's not on you. That's not a result of your choices. That's a result of their choices. I hear you too, that if you we're in February now, so we're about a month away from the wedding, that if you share this news now, in a way, it could be a dinner table conversation at the wedding. I think maybe then what we should consider more is what it will cost you to go. What will it cost you to go? You said you're not sure it would be true to your beliefs. I suppose I guess, and this, I don't know the answers here. What does that mean for you that it's not true to your beliefs to go? Is simply being in the church and listening to the ceremony, Is it that, will you feel like a fraud because the people around you don't know your inner experience and don't know how you feel yet? Or is it that you're going to feel like a fraud even being there? I know you said that it's actually like you need papers, and if you're not a member of the church, then you're actually like not supposed to be there. So maybe it's that you know you're breaking a rule, and that's what's going to make you feel like a fraud. Gosh, it's just this is there's no easy way here. Part of me feels called to be like, listen, do what's going to be. You have to decide what relationship is the one you want to prioritize in this decision, and am I going to be okay? Can I stomach it if I'm wrong? Like there's a world where you could say, I want to choose my sister. And I feel confident that I can go to the wedding and I can kind of pretend everything's fine. And you don't need to go like full-fledged, most religious version of yourself. You can be there and sort of have your own private experience and block things out. You can put up some blockers if you're able, so that you're not really listening, or you're kind of focusing in on on your sister's happiness and all those things. Like there's a world where you do that, and then she, in her initial reaction, is upset that you didn't tell her. Like you're not going to be able to please everybody in this, and somebody's going to be upset. So I do think the way you have to make this decision is, what do you feel best about? I don't know. I know you mentioned that you've always been self-sacrificing for others. I don't think you necessarily need to think of, let's say you decide to go to the wedding. Okay. You decide to go to the wedding and bite your tongue and tell everybody afterwards. I don't know if it's being self-sacrificing. Here's where I would say maybe it is being self-sacrificing. If you going to this event, if you were only going because you didn't want to upset your sister, and if going also meant that you were being set back in your trauma healing, if going meant that you were perhaps hurting your relationship with your husband, those would be things where I'm like, oh, maybe you're leaning back into your self-sacrificing tendencies if no part of this decision was for you. But if part of the decision to go is that you want to be there for your sister in the choices she makes, and almost as an olive branch showing to say, hey, even if we are different moving forward, you and we are still sisters, and I want us to still be sisters, and I want to be there for you in the important days. I think you're making a sacrifice, but it's not self-sacrificing in a people-pleasing way. I think, to me, it's self-sacrificing in a courageous way. But only you know which way, like where that decision falls on your personal pendulum of people pleasing. You might feel like a fraud all day if you go, but sometimes feeling like a fraud is what we do to show up for people we love. Is that true? I mean, yeah, I think sometimes we do have to put ourselves in situations that we're not comfortable in. And that's sort of what it feels like to be a fraud, right? It's like, why am I here? Now, I wouldn't tell you to do that if the situation feels emotionally dangerous for you. And if you were to tell me that you really think that it will be worse for your relationships if you go, then I think you have to trust that too. And in that case, you tell them before. There's a situation too, like there's an option here where you have an honest conversation with your sister. Maybe that's what I would do, though I can't really know what I would do without being in, I feel like the dynamics of this religion and this context is so important. But a third option to consider is having an honest talk with your sister and saying, listen, we need to have a hard conversation, and I want to make the decision with you about what to do. Brian and I have left the church. We made that decision in October. I've been waiting for the right time to tell you, and I'm sorry I haven't told you yet. I want to be there for your wedding. And I've thought about all of the different ways that this could go and all of the different ways that everybody's going to react. And I'm not quite sure how you're going to react, but I wanted to have a conversation with you first, and maybe we could come up with a plan together. I want to be there. Like, let's say you do want to be there. That's what you can include in this conversation. I want to be there. And in order to be there, I'm happy to wait to tell everybody until afterwards. Like maybe how does that sit with you when I say that? Does that feel like something that you could do, but it'll be scary? Or does that feel like something you can't do at all? If it feels like something, if it feels like something you can't do, if you're like, my God, I can't have that conversation with my sister, then again, I think it just comes back to what experience do you want to have? Do you want to have the experience of being at your sister's wedding without anybody knowing? Like, do you want that experience so you can be there and see it before everything changes again? Because you've already had one. Your life has already changed. Your life has already changed when you and your husband in October decided to leave the church. But now it's going to change again. And I think there's some anticipatory grief that must be happening now. And it's the thing that, it's one of the things that sucks about anticipatory grief or ambiguous loss, when you're losing something, when it's not clear cut. And the grief that you're experiencing is not clear cut. It is not clear cut in the way when someone dies. And even when someone dies, sometimes that loss can be really confusing, especially if you have a complicated relationship with that person. And I guess what relationships aren't complicated, but what you're experiencing now, it's like the domino effect and the whiplash of loss after loss, from what you're saying to me. You know, you had the grief when you made the choice, or probably leading up to the choice, and then the relief. And then there's more work that still has to be done. And I really am excited for you to get to the other side where you feel like you've told the people you need to tell, and the beds can settle and people can make the choices they're going to make. And I hope that people can, either right away or in time, like greet you with curiosity and acceptance and love, which are all of the things that you deserve. And I really feel for you, the way you're balancing, like delaying the inevitable, wanting to be there for the big moments in your sister's life, but also not wanting to make it worse. I really hope that something I'm saying in here is giving you some sense of clarity. I wish I could tell you what to do. You know, I wish I could, like if I said to you, I don't think you should go. Like, does that make you feel better? Probably, I'm not sure it would. And if I said to you, I think you should go. I think you should go because your sister's only getting married once. But hopefully for her, if that is, I'm from little I know about your sister, and people, usually we only want to get married once. Your sister's only going to get married once, so just go. You can deal with it for one night. You can deal with it for one night, and fuck them if they're mad later. Fuck them if they feel you disrespected God. You don't believe in the same thing. People are always going to be mad. People are always going to be like, people could be mad at me all day long for the choices I make and the way I live, but guess what? You're not me. I don't care if you don't like the way I live. Now, yes, it's hard when it's the people that you love or your former family members or friends. Like, I could say that to you. I could say, fuck them, go. Or I could say, save your losses, cut your losses, and don't go. Your sister will understand later. But I don't think that, I don't think there's an easy way out of this one. I think that you have to make the choice. I'm curious about your husband. I'm curious about telling your husband that he can make whatever decision he wants. Why? Did you do that because you think that being in the church will be traumatizing for him? Did you do that because it felt like the right thing to do? I want to throw out a possibility that it's okay to say to your husband, I want you to be there with me. Can you be there with me? I don't know him. Again, if you feel like you did that for intentional reasons, you really feel like it's not fair to ask him to come because of the unique circumstances you both have been through, fine. But I don't think this is something you have to do alone. And I think it's fair game to ask your husband, who you've made this difficult choice with, to leave the church and to kind of go against your family. As your partner, I don't think it's unfair to ask him to sit through that discomfort with you. Like it's yours to share, I think. So feel free, if that sits right with you, to say to him, hey, actually, I know I said you didn't have to come. And of course, free will. You can make your own decisions as an independent man. Can he though? Of course he can, right? I'd really like you to come with me. I don't know what I'm going to decide yet, but I actually want to revise the transcript and revise our conversation, and whatever I decide, can we please do it together? Like, I don't want you to feel alone in this. And gosh, what you're doing, what you're dealing with is so alienating and isolating, and you have a person in it with you. Like, make use of that person. Lean on him. You're going to need each other. Another thing I'll say about sibling relationships, And this might apply to your situation. I hope it does, but just more broadly. Sometimes we think we know how our siblings feel and we have no idea. And the strange thing about siblings is that, yes, we all grow up under the same house, but that doesn't mean that you've had the same experience of the things that are going on in that house. And it also doesn't mean that we've processed those things the same. Like, I've been really interested in my own recent years and some of my conversations with my siblings, particularly my sister, about like talking about some of the stuff from like talking about my parents' divorce, for example, like hearing, we each of us have had, my three siblings, we've each had a very different experience of those years. I was much older. My brother was much younger. I mean, 5, 6, 7. My brother like lived at home. My brother had his entire high school. My sister and I were in college. Like, we each just had such a different experience of the same parents and the same dynamic. But we remember things differently. Things have impacted us differently, but also some stuff impacted us the same, and we just didn't talk about it for a long time because I think most people don't like to talk about hard things, even with the people they experience them with. I'd be really curious to hear from other siblings who have experienced a major loss or a major trauma. Like, they're sort of become, it's not that my siblings and I like never talked about some things, but we talked about them in kind of like a very matter of fact way. And I felt like for a long time, and still a little bit, like I did a lot of my processing alone. I think for fear of making it, because talking about it's hard, it like makes it real and it brings up the emotions again that I think a lot of like we don't like to feel our deepest, darkest emotions. You know, we don't like to unearth those things. And what I will say in the little bit, something I've noticed in trying to break down those barriers a little bit and talk about shared experiences with my siblings is I've been really surprised to learn that like there are some things that they feel the same. And there have been some great moments even with my sister where we were like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way too. And that feels insane because my sister is my best friend. We're incredibly close. And to be, you know, she just turned 30, for me to be in my early 30s. And like in the last few years, for us to be saying that to each other sort of for the first time is like kind of fucking crazy. And I don't know if that will be the experience you have, but it might be. And anybody who is listening and just thinking about a sibling and like, we've never talked about that. Like, you just don't know what will happen if you try. Your sister might not make the same choices as you. She might not decide to leave the church, but she might understand some of your feelings. Like, we do spend a lot of time thinking, oh, what if she disowns me? What if she never wants to speak to me again? What if she cuts me off? What if she understands you? What if she loves you no matter what? What if she's one of the only people in the world, actually, who can understand a glimmer of what your experience in the church in your family was like? What if being honest with her and having that conversation, having that dialogue is a crucial part of your healing? What if? Like, if the worst thing could happen, why not the best thing? The best thing could happen too. And I think I'm a person who's very firmly rooted in reality. I think a lot of my advice and my perspective is rooted in like staying in touch with reality. But I don't think it's overly optimistic to think about what could go right. I want you to think about what could go right. That might lead to disappointment, yes, but you're going to be disappointed and hurt no matter what if you're rejected. I don't think there's any harm in imagining that this could be a turning point for you that I do think will come with some sadness and loss, yes. But it could also come with some really wonderful surprises. If you decide to go, I don't want you to feel that you have succumbed to your family. Like, if you decide to go, you are making this choice from a place of strength and from a place of sisterhood. You're not making it from a place of weakness. And I don't want you to feel that way. Similarly, if you decide not to go, I don't want you to blame yourself. I think that both decisions actually could be made from a place of wanting to preserve the relationship. So I want you to trust that whatever choice you make, it's from a place of strength. You've already been so strong and so courageous. Nothing that you do now can take that away from you. No matter what choice you make, I want you to know that it's a choice that honors the woman that you've become and the woman that you're still becoming. It is not a choice reflective of the girl you used to be. I'm proud of you already. I'm hopeful for you. Please keep me posted on what you decide and how it goes. I love you. If you'd like me to answer your letter, please send it to hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com. That's hellohayesbusiness@gmail.com, and we'll be right back for part 2 of our episode. Hello, you guys. Oh, it is so good to be sitting here with you today. It's really nice to be here. I thought about recording this first. It's funny, the order in which I do things, it's really helpful for me to start the episodes right away with the advice column. It's sort of in a weird way, even though they're way more intense than this part of the podcast. It gives me like a clear thing to begin with where I don't need to think about what I'm going to say right away, which is kind of strange. Like, I don't know if that's actually useful, but I find it very comforting that I can just begin by reading the letter, even though I know that about 2 minutes in, I'm going to have to start speaking. Reading the letter first is just a nice way to start. Before I started recording that, I was just thinking, I needed this. And it's sort of I needed this. I'm feeling very untethered right now, right? Like real talk. I'm feeling so untethered at the moment by all of the change happening in my life. And sometimes my reaction to that, there's a part of me that like my instinct is kind of just like shut down and I want to like stop doing everything. And I'm like, I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything, which obviously I don't have that. That's not a choice available to me. That would be a sabotaging choice. But I'm like, I don't want to do anything. I just want to be present and explore and like make the most of my time here, which isn't even really what the voice sounds like. It's more of like a depressed, like, oh my God, I'm just overwhelmed. And I just, and instead, but that doesn't even feel true to me at this point. Like I just feel so lucky to get the time to sit with you here. And as I was showering, I mean, I did procrastinate today beyond, we went to pick up Francis this morning because we just got back from our very brief Colorado trip. Today's been a shit show, and I took a nice long shower before I recorded. But while I was in the shower, I'm like, how lucky am I that I get to go have a conversation with my friends on the podcast that is so grounding? Like how lucky am I? And I just wanted to thank you for that because it's just one of the things I feel very grateful for amid a lot of fucking change. And I hope I'm not talking about the move too much in a way that's boring to you. I hope to share things that are insightful and maybe applicable to you. Speaking of, I have been, I know I've been talking a lot about the move, but I haven't really been feeling like very in touch with my feelings. And I guess I'm somebody who intellectualizes my feelings. I'm also pretty good at feeling them. I think I can do both. But with this move, I have not felt very in touch with my emotions about it. Like, I know that I'm sad, right? I know that I have complicated feelings about it. But I haven't like felt the traditional signs of sadness. Like I haven't cried, and I am a big crier. Like I cry, okay? And I hadn't really cried about this yet. I had cried in the process of the move. Like there were things that had made me cry, but they weren't about the move really. It was like I cried when Brian and I were talking about whether or not we were going to buy a house. I cried because the financial conversation brought up stuff that made me feel ashamed. So I like cried there. I've cried when I'm annoyed and I'm disappointed or I'm mad at people putting pressure. Like I've cried there. I've cried at like all sorts of things, but I haven't really cried related to my sadness. And on Thursday, Brian came home from a run, and Brian is a runner. Brian goes for really long runs and he does a lot of his thinking on those runs. And he came home and he's like, on my run, I was really trying to identify what I'm feeling right now about the move. And then he told me the feeling that he's identified, and something about him identifying the feeling and sharing it with me made me feel my tears. And like all of a sudden the tears were coming, and I said, I think I feel sad. And he had said he was sad. That was the feeling that he had identified. I said, I think I feel sad too. And he's like, is that also your feeling? And boy, do I have a lot of feelings, but I did feel my sadness, and I cried. And the thing that really brought me to tears was thinking about missing my friends. And it's not like I haven't made like millions of friends here. I don't have like a friend group, but I have some really incredible friends. And some of them I've like just made. Like I've just made a new friend. Her name's Rebecca. We became friends. Like we hung out for the first time in December, and we just like instant connection. And it devastates me that we didn't meet each other sooner. And it makes me so sad to think about leaving. And I have another friend who lives around the corner, and I don't think we've ever taken for granted how close we live and like how nice that's been to be able to go over to their house and hang out until midnight and then drive home and it's like 2 minutes. Or just that friendship and having her so close by really reminded me of some of the spontaneity of living in New York City that I really miss. Like being able to just text a friend and go walk down the street and meet each other or hop on the subway, get together after work. Like it sort of mimicked that, even though my life isn't that way anymore. And it hit me that I feel so sad about leaving that and that I'm sad about not having it in the future. Like I'm not moving somewhere. I'm moving closer to friends and I'm moving closer to family, but I'm not going to have like a built-in community immediately around me. I'll have people, within an hour and a half, within a 4-hour drive. But it's not like I'm moving back into the same neighborhood in New York City where all my friends are. And I'm not really somebody who worries about making friends. Like when we moved to LA, people often asked me, "Aren't you worried about friends?" And my answer was no. And I think I've said that about this upcoming move too. Like, no, I'm not worried, but I guess I kind of am. I'm not worried that I trust that I will do it again. I trust that I can build community wherever I go. But I'm sad about leaving this one. Okay, I'm really sad about leaving this one. And it's come up way faster than I anticipated. Like it doesn't, we're moving in early April and it's February 9th. And my God, that's going to fucking fly by. And I feel so unprepared. I feel so unprepared. We're going to have a call. I'm having a call with Roadway Moving tomorrow, who I did move with once in the city, but we didn't use them for our cross country move the first time. I'm going to meet with the guy from Roadway Moving and we're going to figure out what it's going to cost and what the dates are going to be to move this house. So that's going to happen. And then I actually have to plan the route. I have to pack up. There's so much. And I don't want to just sit here complaining or venting about it because that's boring. But it just hit me. And I hope the feelings come. There was something also kind of relieving, honestly. I felt some relief when I did cry, both because I was like, oh, thank God, I know you've been there. Thank God you're finally showing yourself. Stop hiding in the closet kind of thing. It's like, I don't want to delay the inevitable. Like, just cry already, damn it. But then there was also something kind of nice about like crying over something that a lot of my like tears and deep sadness the last few years have been a result of like some really, for me, just like really kind of like deep and painful stuff. And this, while it is very sad, and some of it is probably related to like my the deep sources of my personal mishigas. It felt nice to kind of cry about something that is more normal to me instead of something that feels so like I'm the only one in the world. And maybe even me feeling that is a bit of like doing that again, like no one can understand my pain. Like, oh, I'm crying over something so fucking basic, such as missing your friends. Like maybe I can check myself there a little bit. Missing your friends is a big deal. But I guess for me, it just felt nice to not be crying over something that's like so devastating, like so deep to my core devastating that like I've spent my whole life trying to work through. There was something just that felt very normal about that experience and how I felt sad. And then I kind of worked through it and was able to be okay. And then I felt sad again. And it just felt, I don't know, it felt reassuring. It felt humanizing to me. I felt like a normal fucking human. Moving on though, I want to talk to you about some books. So on my Kindle, as you guys know, maybe you don't know, I love my Kindle. I also love hardcover books. I do not have a preference. I just love reading. My favorite thing about the Kindle is that it offers me books quickly so that when I finish one, I can begin one right away. Because the quickest way I find myself in a reading slump is if I don't just like start a new one immediately. And if I start a new one, then I stay in the reading. Oh no, my camera's gonna die. What do I do? I'm just going to keep talking until it dies, I guess. Okay. The first book that I read on my Kindle, I don't know if I recommend, but I did finish it. And I'll tell you a little bit about it and you can decide if you want to read it. It's called The Other Mrs. Parrish. It was a Reese's book club pick. That's not why I picked it. It was recommended to me in the Libby, the Santa Monica Library thriller Libby section. I did a quick Google search to see if it was legit, looked legit, rented it. It is about a con artist woman who tries to steal a rich lady's husband. Okay. It sort of takes place in what I imagine to be like a Greenwich, Connecticut, or a seaside town near Manhattan. The book, listen, I finished it and it was certainly a page turner and I did want to know what happened, but it turned so fucked up. Like it became so demented and like trauma porny in a way that didn't feel valuable or like, I don't want to say interesting because reading about someone's trauma, like I should have described that as interesting, but like the writing, the story didn't make me feel good in any way. Like it just felt fucked up. And I think that if I'm reading something like so degrading and like reading about something where abuse takes place, like I want there to be some like literary experience perhaps, or a greater purpose to the story. And maybe there was like, who am I to say that there wasn't, that book lacked that? It just didn't do it for me. I'm not sure, but if you like psychological thrillers, that gets you off, like you probably would love this book. And again, I did finish it and it did serve a purpose in getting me to read another book right away, which is the other book. And that is Carly Fortune's Every Summer After. This is my first Carly Fortune book. I really, really liked it. I read it in one day. Well, I started it a couple of nights ago, but I only read like 2 pages before I fell asleep. And then I read the entire book yesterday on my travel day. That to me, and I feel like it's exactly that type of book. It's a type of book that you can finish in one day if you're a fast reader because the subject matter, it's like delightful, page turning. It does deal with some real serious issues. It talks about grief and heartbreak and like it has some serious themes, but it's light. Like there's not something you're reading in there that's so heavy that you have to like take a break from it and process. And like there aren't paragraphs that I'm rereading because like, wow, this changed my life. It's not a book. It's honestly, I'm impressed that I like remember the title. Wow, it sounds like I'm shitting on it. I really enjoyed this book and I will be reading more Carly Fortune books. It's not a genre that romance isn't a genre that I typically read, which frankly is like a little bit, like, is that misogynistic of me that I don't read romance? I won't go that far, but I could read some more romance because I really did enjoy this. And I've heard great things about Carly Fortune. When I posted the book to my Instagram story, so many of you responded saying that you love her books. So I'm definitely going to read another one. And this was a hard copy that I actually borrowed from my friend Rebecca, who I was just telling you about. I really enjoy reading about young love, and I kind of forgot that. It's funny when I posted that I was reading it, another old friend of mine sent me a message and she's like, "I'm so curious what you're going to think about this." Because I loved it, but I found it really triggering. Even being in a really happy marriage, it made me like yearn for young summer love. And I totally understand what she's saying. The book did remind me of what it felt like to fall in love in a way that did make me, and maybe it's because she said this to me, I'm curious if I would have had the same reading experience had she not shared with me her perspective. But like it made me aware of the fact that if all goes well, I will not have that experience again. And that is kind of sad. Now, I think there are so many great things that like happen in a marriage beyond falling in love for the first time. And I do believe that we have so many milestones and so many things to look forward to as a couple, and our love will continue to grow and blossom, but like we won't get falling in love again. And it even made me reflect on like some of the relationships before I got married, and thank God I didn't end up with those people, but like the process of falling in love, yeah, like that is a crazy, awesome, like sexy, surprising, just like mind-blowing time. And to read about someone else having it and then have there be a happy ending. Come on, we know romance books, there's usually a happy ending. I don't think that's giving anything away. For there to be like a happy ending does make you like yearn for your past, like the rose-colored You're wearing rose-colored glasses though when you're thinking about your past. It did make me reflect on like my high school boyfriend and what if, what if XYZ thing didn't happen and what if he was not an asshole during those times? And what could it have been? Like what might my life have been like if I was this character, if I made a few different choices? It was a delightful read. I thought she wrote sex scenes really well. I like really enjoyed those. It put me right back in the heated rivalry mindset, except without the hot hockey gay sex. It was, I think I recommend it. I recommend it. I recommend it if you're looking for something light but not stupid. Like her writing style still felt extremely smart. The prose was great. Like there were no sentences where I was like, "Oh, that sounds dumb." The dialogue I thought was excellent. Her writing reminds me a bit of Taylor Jenkins Reid, who I also love and doesn't write all romances, but her books, would Taylor Jenkins Reid be considered a romance author? I don't even know. I'm not so concerned with what genres books are, though I know I did say I haven't read many romance books. If you have any romance books that you'd like to recommend me based on the fact that I like Taylor Jenkins Reid and apparently Carly Fortune, I'd love to hear them. I think that having a book to read is, oh God, it's just the best. Like being in the middle of, look, I've been a reader my whole life. I love to read. And when I'm not, the thing is though, you like sort of forget what it feels like to read when you're not reading. And then when you're reading again, you're like, oh my God, thank God. Thank God I have this to do before bed. What else would I be doing? Scrolling on my phone? How awful. How awful to scroll on your phone before bed. What do you mean you're not feeling your eyes grow heavy by turning the pages? That is how we should all be falling asleep, my friends, by reading a book, not being on our phones. Okay, I think that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for sitting here with me. Thank you for listening to me talking about this move. I appreciate you supporting me by listening as I talk through it. If you like this show, please give it a 5-star review on wherever you listen. That really helps the show get to new listeners. Share it with a friend. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about it. Say hello. And I will be back next Tuesday with a brand new episode. Hope you have a great rest of your week. I love you all. Bye.